Good morning, Ari here from Paradigm Threat. The topic of today is, what is the deal with flat Earth? So flat Earth is a cosmology of the universe, of Earth, suggesting that the Earth and all the continents are on an even plane, surrounded by ice walls. The reason for this belief system, more or less, is a series of beliefs. A belief that this cosmology is backed by holy texts like the Bible or Hindu texts, and also by rejection of establishment beliefs like NASA, everything I teach in school from Newton to Einstein about the planets, about the galaxies, and how it's all gravity-centric. So essentially, flat earthers believe that gravity is a lie, and that there's another reason for everything being held up and down, having nothing to do with physics, essentially. But they don't explain what the physics is, because after all, flat Earth is not really a cosmology that explains the physics of why a flat Earth would exist. It is simply faith that it is flat. So many of the reasons why people believe in the flat Earth theory is because some of these beliefs are verifiable. For example, has NASA been lying to us? Yes, of course they have. Is the moon not what they tell us? Of course it isn't. It's much closer and smaller than what they suggested with the Apollo missions. Was there a firmament at some point? There was. And this is where flat Earth cosmology intersects with Saturnian cosmology, because Saturnian cosmology will very comfortably explain all of these beliefs that flat earthers have in a proper setting and time, with a physics explanation behind them and everything else. So let's start with the history of flat Earth. When did people start believing it? You might be surprised to find out that there was no reference for this belief system before the 19th century. Not in any book or text. All of those texts in the Holy Scriptures, like about the firmament, they weren't they weren't suggesting, and so the Earth is flat. They never said anything like that. So we're just assuming that these texts reinforce this belief system. But they're suggesting something else entirely, and that is the Golden Age. In the Golden Age, there was a firmament above, the waters above, recorded by every civilization. And if you look above today, it's gone. It's not there anymore, because the Golden Age is over. It's not. We've been past the Golden Age, the Dark Age, and now we're in the Stable Age, the long lifespan of a planet in the solar system. So, before the 19th century, there was a schism of the church and many thinkers of the time, like Galileo, who was opposed to the geocentric model, suggesting the heliocentric model, and the church did oppose him. But none of these models were flat Earth. Geocentric is that the Earth is the center of the universe, which it was in the Golden Age. In Saturnian cosmology, the Earth was the center of the collinear configuration. It was called Midgar, because it was in the middle. So, yes, there was a period when Earth appeared to be flat. There was a up and a down. The North Pole extended up to Mars, Venus, and Saturn. And the South Pole, if you can go that far south, would go to Uranus, Neptune, and Mercury. And Pluto does not exist. So before the 19th century, no reference to flat Earth. So what was so special about the 19th century? Well, that was a great reset, wasn't it? That was when there was a cataclysmic war as a result of the 1812 war, Napoleon and Russia, that became so devastating that it basically destroyed half of the planet. And when I mean half the planet, I mean because all of the targets that were hit with these devastating weapons heated the planet too much up, and it started destroying other parts of the planet that weren't intended to be hit. So it was the apocalypse, man-made apocalypse, and after it was over, as it was happening, there was a desert on Earth. There were survivors. You hear about the Donner Party and all these terrible things happening. And the chosen. Who are the chosen? Well, These are people who were scattered around the planet, who used to be part of a lineage of the Russian Empire, who the deep state was trying to locate. And if they could find them, they'd say, "You're a prince, you're a princess. You might not know that, but we need you to recreate this region, like the Dutch or the Netherlands." And they found all the princes and princesses of those regions, and they saved them. They told them that they were the chosen. But at that time, they did not want to give them the truth. You don't conquer Earth and reorganize it and tell people what happens. You tell them that was God's wrath, and now you better listen to God or it's going to happen again. So that's what everyone was told in the 19th century. And finally, they weren't given the true religion, the one that everyone had before, which involves all the history and all the gods and the one that chased them away and everything. In the 19th century, we were given splinters and fractured religions. Christianity is just a fracture of its former self. And it's fractured into Islam and Buddhism, and they all combine into the exact same religion only 500 years ago. So they didn't want to give us necessarily anything like that, and they had to keep fracturing it further and further. So one of the belief systems was flat Earth, and it did happen in the 19th century, but was not written down anywhere. And they tried to get the survivors of the Great Reset to believe, yes, the Earth is flat, and God's above and the devil's below, that kind of thing. And the only reason why we don't have a bunch of flat Earth religions today dividing and conquering us, subjecting us to their doctrines, is because it's ridiculous, but also because Christianity ended up being so much more impressive. It has a real history tying back to the history of Earth, and it was redacted into the Old Testament religion of monotheism, which itself ties back to the rest of the history of the Earth. So essentially Christianity points back to everything on Earth, as does Islam, as does Buddhism. And you can't compete with these kinds of religions. You can't make up something like that. So the flat Earth religion more or less came and went. It wasn't very impressive. It never really made any ground anywhere. And it is more or less a modern phenomenon run by NASA and the Vatican and the usual suspects, all those people who want us to believe what they've already told us. And if they can hit us hard with this secondary controlled opposition narrative, they're hoping that we run back to the path of least resistance, the establishment narrative, the one that they gave us. So yes, the Vatican has been pushing this stuff for a long time. All these false religions, they're trying to impose equal parallel religion onto us when they can't reach us with their Catholicism. And we see it happening all the time. Kids picking up these, in the 90s, a bunch of kids picked up a bunch of Catholic icons without realizing what they were. Like, this is cool, this is, undercurrent and rebellious. And like 9 Inch Nails, like, nope, sorry guys, that's Catholicism. And so in the 21st century, it's harder for them to hit us with that. No one cares about Catholicism, so they hit us with parallel religions. And Flat Earth is a parallel religion to Catholicism, where you might reject the church and you might not agree with anything, but at the end of the day, all of your beliefs and everything point back to that redacted Bible, and you either have to say yes or no to that. And it turns out that a lot of Christians have a really hard time saying no to Flat Earth because of this narrative. So let me give you one last anecdote. Back in 2018, I believe, I was at a bunch of protests against the mandate, and the flat earthers were always there, and they always had these big banners. The earth is flat, read your Bible, read your Bible. And I could tell that the Christians there, who made up most of the protesters, were astonished. They didn't know what to make of these protesters. Many of them were fooled, and they said, well, I'm glad they're here. I'm glad they showed up. We have more strength in numbers now. This is good. And others who got really angry at them tried to debate them, and it became a yelling match every time, because the kids, their kids on the flat earth side would just be, read your Bible, read your Bible. And the Christians, older people, 10, 20 years older than me, in 50s, 60s, did not know what to do about this kind of tactic. It's like, I used to say that at protests, but abortion protests and stuff. So the flat earthers were a controlled opposition protest that showed up every time there was a real protest in Arizona. And I kept explaining this to people, and as they slowly understood, oh, okay, they're not good for us. Many times I confronted the flat earthers and tried to do a little debate. And like, you guys realize all your doctrine is basically Catholicism? I mean, you know what Catholicism did to the world, right? Like a Spanish edict, for example, you know, demanding that the Native Americans submit themselves to this religion or they will take their children from them and subject them all to the yoke of the church. That's what the edict says and threatens. And I explain this to these guys and they have no answer to that. They're all read your Bible, but they don't know the Bible or the church history very well. You know, the Inquisition guys, remember from history class? Yeah, those guys. So the flat earthers eventually fizzled out in the protest movement and they were replaced by something else, the controlled opposition QAnon. Yet again, just another way of getting at those Republicans who trusted their military and their Q source for so many years. Oops. So that's that. Flat Earth is a controlled opposition movement. It's not a real cosmology. You see it advertised everywhere, and you hear it in the news, and you hear about a guy building a rocket and crashing, but you never ever hear about Saturnian cosmology or anything else that might be real. You're only going to hear about flat Earth and multi-dimensional Earth and time travel Earth and all of the controlled opposition narratives that cannot be tested. All right, hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.